It is the evening of May 11, 1960. On a busy street in Buenos Aires, a middle-aged factory worker steps off his usual bus and begins the short walk to his home. He carries a small bag and blends perfectly into the commuting crowd. But every step he takes is being tracked by operatives from Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency. They have been watching him for weeks. As the sun sets, a car suddenly pulls alongside him. Men step out, grab him, and pull him into the vehicle. There are no gunshots, no shouts. In a matter of seconds, the man vanishes completely from the street. This silent extraction was a meticulously planned operation. It marked the end of a 15-year global manhunt. The abducted man was none other than Adolf Eichmann. As a key official in Nazi Germany, he organized the vast logistical network that deported millions of Jewish people to ghettos and extermination camps. When the regime collapsed in 1945 and many high-ranking officials were captured and put on trial, Eichmann slipped away. He secured false identity papers, fled secretly through Italy, and escaped to South America. In Argentina, he assumed the name Ricardo Clement. He found work in local factories, raised a family, and lived quietly, always assuming his past was permanently behind him. Submitting a formal extradition request carried a high risk. If the local authorities hesitated or the paperwork leaked, a man who had successfully hidden for a decade and a half could easily disappear again. A covert extraction was the only way to ensure he faced a courtroom. The operation began with fragmented information from informants living in Argentina, pointing toward a man named Ricardo Clement. But proving a hidden identity from thousands of miles away required absolute certainty before agents could strike. Investigators started cross-referencing decades-old military portraits with covert photographs taken on the streets of Buenos Aires. Agents documented his daily routine. Every bus he boarded and every schedule variation was logged, while analysts matched precise physical markers between the two sets of images. The combined evidence eliminated any lingering doubts. Ricardo Clement was Adolf Eichmann. Locating him was a massive intelligence victory, but physically removing him from a sovereign nation undetected presented a severe logistical test for the young Israeli state. Once off the street, agents brought him to a secure safe house. Over several days of intense questioning, he finally admitted his true identity. Now, the team had to get their captive past Argentine customs and onto an aircraft without alerting local authorities. An Israeli delegation was in the country for a national anniversary. Using this cover, agents sedated their captive, dressed him in the uniform of an ill airline crew member, and physically supported him as they walked across a dark airfield to a waiting El Al plane. The aircraft departed without suspicion. Only after the wheels touched down safely in Israel did the government announce that Adolf Eichmann was in custody, sending a shockwave through the global press. Executing a flawless intercontinental extraction elevated Mossad's profile, establishing its reputation as an agency capable of projecting power and capturing targets far beyond its own borders. The diplomatic fallout was immediate. Argentina protested vigorously, arguing that Israeli operatives had grossly violated its national sovereignty by conducting unauthorized actions on its soil. The dispute was quickly brought before the United Nations, igniting a fierce debate among member states. Israel acknowledged that the operation bypassed standard legal channels, but argued that the moral imperative to prosecute a chief organizer of the Holocaust overrode typical border protocols. The clash forced the international community to weigh the rigid boundaries of state sovereignty against the pursuit of individuals accused of crimes against humanity. In 1961, the trial convened in Jerusalem. It was meticulously documented, with the proceedings broadcast to audiences around the world. The prosecution presented thousands of documents, but their strategy relied heavily on raw human testimony. Dozens of Holocaust survivors took the stand. For many watching globally, it was the first time they heard first-hand accounts of the systematic cruelty endured inside the camps. Facing these accounts, Eichmann maintained that he was merely following orders from his superiors. The court firmly rejected this defense, finding him guilty of crimes against humanity. He was sentenced to death. Following his execution in 1962, his ashes were scattered into the sea, far beyond territorial waters, ensuring no physical grave could ever serve as a memorial. The capture and trial established a clear standard for accountability. It proved that those responsible for mass atrocities could be pursued across continents and across decades, facing justice long after they believed they had escaped it.